Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Don't Blame Me, starring us, two people who you cannot blame for anything because we said so.
I like how you took the intro for But Am I Wrong and switched it and reversed it.
I have. I told Mott's like the fun fact about that. I was like, yeah, so it's just like those words, like backwards. And he was like, what? I'm like,
I
yeah.
feel like that's something he should have known.
It really is. And I should never be teaching him about anything involving 90s or early 2000s hip hop, rap, R&B at all. So, but I have been teaching him and educating him a lot about things important to me in the early 2000s and late 90s, which is the theme of what we're going to be talking about on this week's episode of But Am I Wrong?
Mm-hmm. So, listen later on Thursday.
Hey.
But what is this show?
Well, Melissa, because that's your name. My name is Megan, everybody. Hello. I'm on a lot of cold medicine. This show is a show where we have been bestowed the gift of giving amazing advice, and we have decided to share that wealth with the world. So we answer your calls and listen to your voice messages that you send us about the predicaments and problems you are having in your life, and we do our best to solve them. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we will always do our very best.
Mm-hmm.
We hope to entertain, we hope to enlighten, and we hope to have a good time.
That's a very good description, Megan.
Thank you.
I recently had professional advice giver Meredith Goldstein on a couple podcasts. And she said something that really resonated with me. And I thought we could take it into this show. She said that she keeps in mind when people are writing in for advice, that she is giving advice to that person and not everybody reading it. And
yeah,
which is something we do. But I just think for the listeners, to be open to that, because sometimes people get mad at us for the advice that we give, but we're not giving the advice to them. We're giving it to the person that called in. Yeah.
That's why we also do try and relate to like being like, well, I wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. This is what I would do. But what I would tell you to do is this. So yeah, that's a very good point.
So she said that she reminds her viewers, and now she has a podcast of that very thing.
Insightful. I like that. Popping that in my pocket. I have no pockets in these pants that I've been wearing for 3 days straight. Hey.
So if people want to participate, how do they do that?
They can give us a dial. They can give us a ring-a-ling. I almost said hotline bling, but I'm not associating myself.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Ring-a-ding-ding. You can ring our bell at 310-694-0976. And international listeners, you can send us an audio message at meganpodcast@gmail.com. And for both, you have a 3-minute limit. So the best way to utilize that time is to write down everything that you want to say, practice a few times, reading it out loud with like a timer, making sure you're under 3 minutes. You have to include your age. You can include your pronouns if you would like. It's all anonymous. So if you want to give other people like pseudonyms that kind of make sense for this, we always appreciate that. You don't have to get creative with it. You can. We do say, if you could try and get creative with it, don't use names of like, oh, you and your partner, and it's like their siblings in like the reference that you're doing. Like, oh, this is, unless it's like is it James and Cersei? No, it's not James. That is a fucking, there's no one named James on Game of Thrones. whatever her brother fucker was, like that, his name. And so, you know,
if the people in the story are brother
that's what I'm saying.
fuckers,
If you're brother fuckers,
then yes,
so
but
use a brother fucker name. But if not, please don't use a brother fucker name, because I'm going to think that the subtext there is that you're a brother fucker. And then I'm like, am I supposed to be picking up on a brother fucking energy?
Yeah.
So you have to be also 18 or over, have your parents' permission. But then when it's time to record, after you've timed it down, you've gotten all perfect, just read it out loud when you time it out. And as Melissa likes to remind us, the timer only starts after the beep. So you don't have to do 3 minutes from the time that you dial and it starts ringing. It's from the beep. You have 3 minutes to give us as much relevant information as possible. And sometimes people can feel like we know the backstory, or like, I don't want to get into all of this. Or you think that one thing speaks volumes, but you've had like a history of all these other things before, and you kind of just throw that in there. If you're going to like reference a history, like you have to give us like at least a couple little snippets of what that is. We can have a better and clearer picture. And then always let us know if you're sensitive. We do keep that into account to try and give you the best advice possible. We're not trying to ruin your life by any means.
No, unless you deserve it.
Yeah. But usually if we're trying to ruin their lives and they deserve it, like we're not going to answer the call. We're just going to like send the call to relevant parties. That's only happened once.
It happened once. The authorities were notified.
They were notified. And they should have been.
And that's all.
That's it. Like that's
we
all
don't know anything
that's all
else.
we know.
Yeah.
No, we did our part for being unwilling participants in the information that we were given. Disgusting. Jail. Hopefully the result was literally jail.
Yes.
Yeah. So we haven't heard from them. So that is a good sign.
Yeah.
We didn't hear from the authorities or the guilty party. So, wow, we're like that. What's that fucking, that true crime documentary where the guy confessed to a crime while he was on a hot mic? The Jinx.
Yeah.
The Jinx.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we had. Except imagine calling into a podcast to confess a crime and then being like, you girlies get me. And we're like, these girlies do not get you.
Mm-mm.
These girlies don't get you at
relate.
all. And these girlies are forwarding this call to the authorities with your zip code and your phone number.
Yeah. After we have looked you up. Anyway.
Yeah, don't try us. Don't fuck with us. Like, we're cunts, but like, we're not monsters.
No, not by any means.
No.
Anyway, call one. Here we come. Ready?
Ready.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I use she, her pronouns. I'm almost 26, and I'm calling to get advice on navigating FOMO as a chronically ill homebody. I'm currently in grad school and have a small group of friends that I spend most of my free time with. I'm really open about my conditions and symptoms to everyone in my life, and have no problem setting boundaries about what I can and cannot do. My friends are really cognizant and supportive of my needs, especially when it comes to how and when we hang out together. However, I've found myself pushing my own boundaries, especially when it comes to going to parties. Even before I got sick, I was never a big partier, but enjoyed going to bars and the occasional frat party every once in a while in college. Now, I prefer to do low-key hangouts with smaller groups of people, both because of my health and also just because I want to be able to actually talk to the people I'm with. Usually it's like a game night at someone's house, weekly trivia at our favorite bar, cooking and eating dinner together, that kind of thing. My friends still invite me to parties so that I feel included, but they never pressure me to go or to stay longer than I feel comfortable doing. However, I've come to the conclusion that parties are just not for me anymore. It was fun when I was younger and could drink, but now I just end up getting overstimulated and feeling really awkward and uncomfortable. And it almost always triggers a symptom flare and just knocks me out for the next couple of days. Despite knowing this about myself, I decided to go to my friend's house party tonight. Of course, I immediately regretted it and ended up leaving after an hour. I feel like I keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different outcome. And every time I just end up frustrated and disappointed in myself for trying to do something that I know just doesn't work for me and my body. I think part of it is that I romanticize the memories I have of the time in my life when I did used to go out and wish that I could still do that. This weird cognitive dissonance where I'm getting FOMO about the idea of doing these things, even though I realistically know I will not enjoy them in the moment. I guess I'm just asking for advice on how to be more accepting and respectful of my limitations and boundaries when it comes to being social. I know this is a really big question that doesn't have an easy answer, but I really appreciate any advice you guys have. I love and appreciate you both so much. Thank you in advance for your help.
You called two wonderful people for this. I think this is hard, but I don't know how much else I have to say other than like right now what it seems like that you've been doing is feeling like this is a season in your life that you've been pushing yourself because you have been romanticizing this and you've kind of like want to have these different outcomes, but you've repeatedly had negative outcomes. And so I think it's just kind of a numbers game and collecting the data. So you've collected the data from that end of it. And so now if you treat it as opposed to like a choice and like being like, this is good for my mental health, like, you know, this is what I want, like this is like a choice you have to be super, super solid in, and it's like a permanent thing. But instead being like, oh, I'm collecting data on the other end, like I'm going to not go out and I'm going to then see how I feel afterwards. And of like the FOMO, like did I feel a lot of FOMO going out? And then I would write it down, like write down how you felt not going, and then being like, okay, the next day, also not just when they're at the party, but like does that FOMO last for like the next day, or is it the next day you're realizing like, oh, I'm not completely wiped out and I'm not like flaring symptoms wise from something related to that, so like I was able to do this that day. So kind of looking at it for like the event, the cause, like the result and the outcome of that over the course of like a week, and being able to like look back on that to see, oh, I have not enjoyed going out those times. And it can be hard if you've been in the habit of kind of like, oh, I'm going to opt in, to then remember that like, oh, that FOMO that I felt, like it's actually not that bad because I've been doing it in a sense to make it like a test to like see how you feel, as opposed to like a choice you have to be totally set for and solid for at all times. Because I'm very much someone who like plays things by ear, and there are things that like I have no desire to go to because I know I won't have a good time, and then there are other things which I'm like, I know that I'm not going to feel good, like this is going to be rough, but like I really want to participate in something like that. But I would never be able to choose to participate in something like that if I fucking burn myself out and wipe myself out for a bunch of other things that I don't really care about, but I'm just like trying to be a person that I might not have ever been, but like this romanticized idea of who I want to be and who I thought I was at a different time.
Yeah. And just for anybody that's new or doesn't know, like I have a lung condition, and then Megan also has long COVID. So for me, like there's a clear distinction before COVID me and after COVID me. And before COVID me, I would go out all the time. I would make out with random people, hook up with random people all the time. And then as we started hearing about COVID, I felt like I was just kind of shrinking in on myself, because after I already knew what like could happen. And then after I had a serious conversation with my doctor about it, it was like, do not get COVID because it's going to be bad. And, you know, that's something I've been prepared for. Luckily, it hasn't happened to me, but like, I'm still very cautious when I go out. I'm no longer just hooking up with random people, not even going out to, like, for example, this past weekend, Gabe had their birthday party, and they were like having a bunch of people over before going out to party at like in the clubs and stuff on Thursday night. And
the clubs,
they did go to the clubs. They went to the club.
You have to tell me off mic what fucking clubs.
Well, it's also Gabe's birthday is on June 1st, the first day of Pride. And so like,
I was about to be like, this is a fucking commitment.
Yes. But
like,
Gabe loves going out and partying.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
No, I know, but I'm saying like
for me
like
it would be but the thing is
lot.
like the caller's friend, my friends know my limitations, and Gabe was like, I know that you probably don't want to come out to this, and I was like, yes, you're correct. They said this to both me and Allison, and they were like, well, I'm gonna do a brunch for just us and a couple other people that don't want to like go out and stuff. And so that's what happened. Like, would I have liked to go out and party? Yes. But like, that's just something that I know that I can't do anymore. And so, yeah, I do have FOMO that I can't hang out and party the way that I used to. I can't like just walk around a crowded area without a mask on. I just have to be cautious anytime I have to ask people like if there's an event or something, who's going to be there, so I can make sure it's people that like they know have taken the precautions. Like, there's just a lot of steps that I have to take before I consciously go out. But the thing is, like, the caller's friends, like my friends know. And so like, if it's something they're like, hey, we're doing this, these are the things that are happening. I know you probably don't want to go, but here's something else that we can do together. So I never really feel left out in like the big picture, but there's just things that I know I can't do anymore. And so it's just like making myself comfortable with me and being happy with what I have now and being happy for the health that I do have, you know, knowing that if I do push myself, then it could have detrimental consequences to that.
Yeah. Like knowing that there are things that are completely out of our control when it comes to like our health, but there are things within our control at this point. And like, that's something to like look on that as a benefit and something that is like not to be like, it can be a headache and it can feel frustrating. And like, I totally understand that, but I don't think the crux of this, I don't think is the FOMO. I think that I don't know what your chronic illness is, or if it's something that has been exacerbated by COVID or by your health, by other like health factors, or if it's like a recent diagnosis that you're learning more about, or if it's something that has come on later, or if your mental health has been affecting this. But to me, this is a chronic illness related call because it's mourning. Like you're mourning not who you were, you're mourning who you thought that at some point you had the choice to be that person. And like right now you're saying that like, oh yeah, like I've always really been a homebody. I've never really been like that into parties and like not really into that stuff. But like now suddenly I'm wanting to be like that because it feels like that before that was a choice and now it's not. And so it's like, oh, well, now I want to be like that. Like it feels like it's taken away from you, like a possibility. And I so relate to that. Like that has been a very, very hard thing for me to deal with too. And I don't want to like diminish this by being like, oh, you're so lucky you have like great friends who are supporting you in that, because it doesn't matter. Like that's still really hard. But I think sitting with like yourself and like looking at your life, and maybe I don't want to say like not factoring in chronic illness into this, but like there are fundamental things that your life changes when you're sick. And then there are also just ways that you are that align with that. So you haven't really liked partying, and that is aligned at this point with your chronic illness, which is kind of wiping you out and getting flares from doing this kind of stuff that you didn't even really enjoy doing. And you might not have ever enjoyed doing that, but maybe down the line things change and you will enjoy doing that and you want to do that. So like the being comfortable in our like current circumstance and our situation doesn't mean that you have to give up the idea that that could change. Like your desire to do something could change and your circumstance could change. But right now, all you know is the past and the present. And the past, you didn't enjoy doing these things. Present, you don't enjoy doing these things. If you suddenly want to do these things, you'll have that feeling and that desire that's not going to suddenly kick in the second that you're there to kind of prove yourself wrong. Like you'll build up to those kinds of things. You'll go out to things that like you're really enjoying and planning things. And so I think like padding your life too with planning the more things that you do with your friends and the game nights and all of that kind of stuff. Like, do you feel like you're lacking in friendships? Like, do you feel like you're lacking in friendships with people who are in a similar boat to you? Like, I would be going fucking insane if I didn't have Melissa in this, because like none of my friends, none of them. I have one friend who they have to be really cognizant of health stuff regardless, and Lily is someone too, like Lily has like her back stuff, like so there's things that like we understand with that, but like if I didn't have friends like that and I was like the one friend who was like, oh, opting out, can't do this, opting out, it's, even though I don't want to do those things, like it is nice that like I can text Melissa and like just vent about some shit or whatever. So it might, no matter how supportive your friends are, and they're great and they're doing everything right, and like I wish everybody had like a support system like that, but I also wouldn't discredit having people who are also in your same boat, just to kind of like, not temperature check, but kind of like for you to relate to and understand that like, oh, this isn't like a me thing, like this, like people who are understanding your side more, because no matter how accommodating other people are, it can feel like you're a lot. It can feel like it's like, oh, I'm the only one going through, like it can just be nice to have people who are going through similar things to kind of vent to, or to feel like they're also opting out of something like that.
So maybe try to, if you don't have friends close to you, find a community online of people that are, doing similar things as you. And maybe, when your friends are out doing stuff, that community could be doing something online, or find any, it might not necessarily be other people with chronic illnesses, but people that just don't like going
someone
outside.
In grad school. Yeah. Like it can be anyone who's opting out for any reason. And like, I don't know how like you are telling your friends like, oh, I'm not going to do this. But like, I know for me, like when it comes to like going out and like drinking, like when I would go to weddings and stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm not drinking. As soon as someone else heard that like I'm opting out of an activity, they're like, oh, I'm gonna opt out and do that too. So even if it's within your friend group, I don't know how you guys are communicating this stuff between you, but not feeling like everyone's going out and you're like left at home. Like there can be alternative activities and like things to do, whether like Melissa said, like online or in person with friends who are like, like I'm not really in the mood to go to that thing. Like, oh, do you want to come over and do this? Like if it's on a group chat, being like, I'm not gonna be able to go to that party there, but like if anyone is trying to have like a low-key like night staying in, like I'll be home if anyone wants to like hang out or something like that.
And don't feel pressure, and tell them like, don't feel pressured. Like, but if you don't want to go, I'm here.
Yeah. Also, another one is, which I used to do. And my friend Jenica talked about doing this when she was in college. So she was a teen mom, and she would have at her apartment, she would host pre-games for her friends before they would go out to the bars, but she just wouldn't go out and leave because she had a kid. And so it would be like, oh, like we'll all hang out here, kids in bed, but I'm obviously going to stay here. So like she would still be participating in the activities of that night, but in her home and in that way. And like, I don't know if there's a way for you to make that where you feel like comfortable or safe doing that, but feeling like you're still participating in the night, just for a specific part of the night.
Yep.
Like a dinner pregame.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break.
Woo!
And we're back from our break.
Yay. Let's get into the next call.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm 23. I broke up with my boyfriend of a year and a half a few weeks ago. For context, we ended things pretty peacefully. There wasn't a huge fight or cheating involved, but it did surprise him, and he had a really hard time with it. He always said I was the love of his life. He was deeply in love with me, to be honest, almost to the extent of obsession, which was part of the reason of the breakup. I was basically the solution to all of his problems, and it was too much after a while. And no matter how much I backed him, he never went to therapy, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. My issue is we have a lot of sex tapes of the two of us, and he has nudes and videos of me. The thought of him watching those makes me really uncomfortable. When we were together, he sometimes put those on just to hear my voice because he missed me, not even to jerk off, which kind of sounds like bullshit, but if you know him, you know it's very possible. And it's nice, but a little bit obsessive, I don't know. So I'm pretty sure that he watches them sometimes when he's sad or angry. So the question is, how do I ask him to delete those? Would it be even cruel of me? I'm not afraid of revenge porn at all. This is not about that. It's really just that it makes me uncomfortable. We're meeting up to give each other's stuff back, which I initiated, I think next week maybe. I'm not sure if I should bring it up then, or if it'd be easier to do over text. Is it even okay of me to ask that? I'm a little sensitive, so go easy on me if you think I'm unreasonable, but I'm curious about your opinion. I still have some time, so I want you to know I really love your podcast, and thank you for your advice in advance.
You're not being unreasonable at all in any
No,
way.
your body is your property, like forever, like in perpetuity. Like you have ownership over your body. You have ownership over photos and videos of your body. The only people at this point who do not have ownership over that are models from photographers, which I also don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm vehemently against that. But no, you have ownership over this, like these photos. It is the right thing to do. Is anytime you end a relationship.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all, I'm JJ.
Hey, guys, it's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Or even while you're in a relationship, if your partner asks, but even if your partner does not ask after you end a relationship, you should be deleting every photo.
Everything, and from your deleted messages too. Because some people forget that it goes to your deleted and stays there until you actually delete it. It's not wrong of you to ask. I think I would do it in text message to have it in writing. So then there's no denying it. But then when you meet in person, ask for either like reminding them or ask for confirmation. Because, like, especially since he watches them just to hear your voice and was obsessive over you and won't go to therapy, like this just doesn't, it's not his to have anymore. Like he no longer has your consent to view these things. And so, like he should 100% delete them, get rid of them, forget they existed.
Yeah, I think you're giving him like a really kind benefit of the doubt. He reminds me of my ex, just from this kind of like, you are put on this pedestal that like you can never achieve, but then also it's impossible to critique to try and help your partner, because like it's like, oh, you are the answer and you are the solution to everything, and it's like, oh my God, no, like, and then you can't have problems, and like it's really hard. So I would ask in person. I wouldn't ask over text, just because. And I think you don't have to agree with me. You can agree with Melissa, like do whatever feels right to you. But there are so many apps that are ways that you can hide photos in apps that don't look like photo apps. And unless you know what every single one of them looks like, I think it kind of gives him an opportunity to like transfer them to his computer, to kind of like hide them in that sense. And that's because I'm assuming the worst of him. But I also think that like these are personal images of you that like you clearly have, and rightfully, like from the tone of your voice, like you really don't like that he has these, and you don't really entirely trust what he's saying. And like, even if he's just listening them to hear your voice, like, no, that's also not okay with me. Like that, no, because there's nudity involved. And even if there wasn't nudity, it's not something you're comfortable with. So I would in person just be like, oh, and could I see your phone so I can delete any of those videos and photos we have? Like, I really don't feel comfortable with that. And then I would follow it up. I don't know how he's going to say something like that, but yeah, I would go through and delete. And you don't do it with him, like him right there, and just be like, okay, I'm just going to go to this, and like he can watch you to make sure you're not looking through anything nefarious there, and then deleting them from the deleted folder. And I would make sure that like there are ways that you can like protect certain images, that like those ones aren't in there. And that there's no apps. And I would do some research before about some of those apps that allow you to keep messages. Some of them look like cameras, like some of them look like utilities things that are like a screwdriver and like something like, or it's a ruler. Like there are lots of different ones, but they have specific names. And then I would follow up in a text message of being like, oh, I just wanted to like double check that you had deleted the messages, and be really specific in the wording, because I do think you should have it in writing as well. That you've also deleted them from the iCloud and emptied them if they attach to your computer as well. But that's how I would probably do it.
I agree. I was thinking, I don't know why in my head, I was thinking it was on some other device that wouldn't be his phone, like the videos. Oh, yeah. And so that's why I had said what I said. But now that you are saying that, it most likely is on his phone. So yeah, I agree with that.
And if it's on his phone, I think there's a high likelihood it's also on his laptops and his computers, but without a doubt, there's at least something on the phone, and that's the easiest place it is to hide things. And so I would say that make sure, like, don't not follow it up with a text message that's really explicit about what the videos and photos are that you're asking him to delete, and confirming that they've been deleted on any home devices as well, because I do think that having it in writing is important. I wouldn't downplay it to him at all. Like, it's not a negotiation. It's just like, I'm not comfortable with this. Like, you don't have to offer more explanation than that. But it's just like, like, we're not together anymore. Like, we've broken up. I'm not comfortable with that. And you saying that you're not concerned about revenge porn, the fact that you're not even sure if you can ask for this back, to me is like, I can't imagine that he has built you up to make you think that it seems like that you think that he has some ownership over these, and thinking that you can't even like ask for these back is so not true. Like, you can ask for anything back, even if you're legally not like, even if it's not in your favor legally, like you can always ask. But if he jumps to this, like, oh, like, you think I'm gonna like revenge porn, like, I don't think you need to pad this with like ahead of time of like, oh, I don't think, if he brings up revenge porn, you're like, no, I'm not saying that, but I would not bring that up first. I would just be as straightforward and as unemotional with it as possible. It's just like, yeah, you have these photos of me. Like, it's just kind of, it's very cut and dry. Like, we're no longer together. You have these photos and videos of me. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, could you delete them? Because he seems like a very emotional person and has put a lot of this kind of stuff on you. And when we have someone who romanticizes us, like, there's people talk about like the fine line between like a fan and a hater, like someone who like absolutely fucking hates you. Like, that line is like really, it's a very, very, very thin line. So I would just know that someone who is obsessive with you, obsessive is not a positive trait, and it can go even more negative than it already has. So going about this in the least accusatory way, without giving him verbally all of this benefit of the doubt, because I just don't think he's emotionally manipulative. I don't think you need to give him all of this explanation and reasoning, because it's just factual. It's super simple. I know it might feel like you want to do this in a really private place, but I would pick a place in public that is relatively private to to do this. I think anytime you're exchanging things or asking someone to do something who might get upset or emotional or something like that, obviously not on like a crowded bus where all these people can see what's on the phone, but enough that there's kind of a level of accountability when you're at a park and you're not near a bunch of other people, but
a Target parking lot.
Exactly.
All right, next call.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I am a 19-year-old female. I'm in a very hetero relationship with a 20-year-old male. So I guess I just had a question. So basically, I'm very close with like my boyfriend's parents and everyone in his life, including his boss. They are like friends. They work on a construction crew, not to give too much away. I'm very close with his boss's wife. And yeah, so my question is regarding like, I guess, boundaries when going to Vegas. So my boyfriend's boss and his parents want to take him to Vegas for his 21st birthday. I'm honestly all for it. I think everyone needs to experience Vegas once, whether that's positive or negative. I've already been with my own family and stuff. So yeah, I guess I'm just really calling in regarding to like the strip club factor of Vegas because yeah, I mean, it's your 21st birthday. So his boss is like very much into that kind of stuff, I guess. Like he has like a whole live-in partner and everything. They've been together for like 11 years or something. And he just like doesn't really give a shit. Essentially, and that works for them, and that's great. But I have like very explicit boundaries with stuff like that. If we're not there together, you're not going at all, kind of thing. And we've discussed this, but I can't help but feel like his boss will put him in that kind of situation, or try to get him into that situation, and that maybe he doesn't really know our boundaries like that. And I don't think his parents really know the boundaries that I have with that. So yeah, I guess I'm just calling to say, like, ask for advice in the situation. I've told him already, like, absolutely not, but I don't know how to make it like more clear, like my boundaries more clear, if that makes sense. So that's all. I love the podcast. We are both Capricorns. I'm an early Capricorn. He's a late Capricorn. We're both very reasonable people. But yeah, I don't have the money to go on the Vegas trip either. So that is out of the question. I'm saving. So he does. He's a big boy, works a full-time job. I am going back to school. So yeah, that is my call. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Oh my God. My heart goes out to you. This is just not good. Like there's nothing good about this. You saying that like his boss like doesn't really give a shit about his 8-year relationship live-in partner and it works for them. I don't know how much it works for them.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Like not giving a shit about someone is like very different than like both of them being cool, attending like strip clubs and stuff. I think already it's inappropriate for his boss to be doing something like this for him because there is some sort of obligation in participating in things he might not feel comfortable participating in because he feels like it will reflect on his work relationship. And like I already think that like workplace friendships can be really dicey because you can end up doing things that don't align with you or making wrong calls. And like your personal life should not affect your professional life like this. Like what he chooses to do on his 21st birthday. And so to have two kind of outside pressures there, which like parents as well, and I'm assuming they're funding all of this. So there's a little less say you get in it from there. Like I'm just straightforward with you. Like there's truly, I don't think there's anything more that you can do. And I think there's a very high likelihood that even if he does not want to, that he's going to be in a position at 21 years old where he's feeling obligated to do these things. And no matter how serious a relationship or how much he cares about you, I don't think is indicative of him valuing one thing over the other. But like peer pressure is a fucking hell of a goddamn drug, especially before your brain is fully developed and you're going to be inebriated. Like this just is not going to end up. I'm not even saying that I think that he's going to take advantage of this and do things that are going to intentionally hurt you. Like, I don't think he's going to have a good time either. Like, I think this is a bad spot for him to be in.
I just want to say that, like, to start off before I go, like, strip clubs, as long as like women are doing it because they want to do it.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's a job just like any other job. Get your money, get your bag. Like,
no, get your money.
I like personally have no problems with partners going to a strip club. I have enjoyed going to a strip club a time or two in my life. I think the thing that jumped out to me though is you didn't say if he wanted to go or not. Like, if he wants to go, then that's his choice. And even if that's your boundaries, it's not like something that is like, he's not specifically doing something to you. It's still something that you don't want, like you don't want him to go, but it's still his choice. And so like, if this is something that he's interested in and he wants to go, and just like you said, everybody should experience something twice, him going to Vegas isn't going to stop him from going another day after the shift wherever y'all live. Like, if he wants to go to a strip club, he's going to go to a strip club. And so like, if this is something that he wants to do and he enjoys to do, and this is something that is a no-go for you, then that might mean that down the road, this is not something that y'all are compatible with. So like, yeah, you might not like it, but maybe he does like it. And so at the end of the day, it's his choice. But I do not think that you should be partying with your boss or your dad in any type of way like this. Like, that is weird to me. That is strange. And like, somebody you work with should not be doing this. But again, like, men do things like this. Like, this is, for some men, like going to the strip club after work to get a drink and watch some entertainment and, you know, grab a steak that they sometimes have. Like, that's just how they unwind after work. So
yeah,
if it's something he wants to do, he's going to do it.
Yeah. And you're right in the sense that like, your boundary can be, I don't want to be with someone who's doing this. The boundary can't be, I don't want him to do this. Mm-hmm. So like, the only thing you can control with your boundary is how you will react to that. If this is a deal breaker for you, then you need to make that clear to him of being like, I'm really not comfortable with that. If that's something that you want to do, let's have this discussion, because I need to know that, because then figuring out if that is something that is a deal breaker for you. But is the deal breaker him going to a strip club, or is the deal breaker him lying about going to a strip club and saying he didn't go to a strip club? Like, so, because I'm telling you, I think even if he does not want to go, I think he's going to go. I don't think that this trip is set up in a way that is truly actually for him. Because I think if it was for him, they would be like, oh, we're going to cover the money to have you and your girlfriend go to Vegas, and we'll come for a night. We'll take him out drinking. Because like, even though you're under 21, like, there's still certain things that like, you could go to like a nice show there. You could go to like a nice dinner. Like, it could be something like that. But like right now, this feels like this is your corrupting weekend. Like, we're going to take you here. We're going to party and do all that stuff. And because of the power dynamics of parents and boss, even if he does not want to, you just need to understand that like, he can tell you he does not want to do this, but there is a chance it's still going to happen, because it's not an environment that's conducive to him being comfortable turning those things down.
Or it could also be like, this is something that he really wants to do, and he's just not telling you because he knows it's not something that you like.
Yeah, but I also think that like, this needs to be, if this is a deal breaker for you, I don't want to sound like extreme, but like, I think it needs to be a deal breaker not resting on him exerting all of this agency and power in a situation where I'm telling you, he doesn't have a lot, and it puts him in a really bad spot. So if it's like set up in a way that it's like, I don't want you to do this, and he's like, I don't want to do this, then if you kind of just sitting at home waiting for him to get home to find out if he did or did not, if this is a deal breaker for you, I think it needs to be a deal breaker before he goes on the trip. I don't think it needs to be like waiting to see how he did, because again, he could not want to do it at all. And it's probably still going to happen. It's just not an environment where he can really call the shots. And it might seem like it is because it's for him, but it's really not for him. It's for the other people to kind of do for him so they can participate in all of this. And I just think that like you can have these boundaries, and I think they're very fair and valid boundaries for you to have, but it's impossible to have other people's behavior be your boundary and have them have to adhere to that. Like, it's just fundamental. If they're for this, if they're against this, if they are, if they aren't. But I think personally, the best thing to do, if this is not a hard boundary for you, that you're like, well, I'm not going to break up with him, then it's honesty. Then it's like, it's not like he's going to come home and you're going to be really upset with him. It's like, I just need you to be honest about this. Like, if you're going to go, I would like you to text me and like, let me know. If something happens, I want you to let me know. And so there's no lying involved there. But I think you're not in a position that you're comfortable in, but I also really don't think he's in a position. He can be totally comfortable. He can be all for it. And he can also not be. And then it's just on you to believe him or not. And I just think that that's a hard spot. I would also unpack why this is a deal breaker for you. Like, do you think he's going to cheat on you? Like, do you think, like, what are the certain things that are there? And then what do those things mean? You know what I mean? Because like people doing their job and being nice to him. Yeah.
Most
that's
strippers
what I mean.
are
So,
not
like,
going to be doing anything sexual with, unless like they are high rollers.
Yeah,
like,
how much money is he
tons
talking?
I mean, construction does have a lot of money in
That's
it for the boss is
and
going.
cash.
Yeah, but like personally, I'm totally fine with it. But I can understand how some people might not be. All right, we're gonna take another break. All right, we're back from our break.
Hello, Melissa and Megan. Today I was needing advice on how to deal with the world deciding to give you a big fuck you over the course of a week and how to pick yourself up afterwards. I'm 20 and go by he, him. And now, honestly, not a ton happened, just a few things that made things pretty shitty and tedious. So earlier this week, my bank account was hacked into and someone stole around $1,200, which was so fun and didn't make me have several panic attacks. No. Luckily, my bank is going to compensate that back to me. And, I'm not actually losing anything, which is great. But then yesterday, I got fired from my job, which I didn't do anything horrendous, just a few small things that like add up over like the course of time. And it was a minimum wage job anyway, so like I'll be able to get another one fairly soon. And if worse comes to worse, I have a fast food job that I can go back to if needed, which I don't want to, but I will. And I was planning on quitting there within the coming weeks anyway, so just a little earlier than expected. I was actually just like waiting for my mom to buy a new car for herself because we currently share one at the moment. So like now I gotta like find a new like work schedule that works well with me and my mom. And the job I got fired from had a consistent schedule, so like I knew what days I had off and like everything was good going forward. So anyway, like my mom should be getting a new car soon. So like that should hopefully resolve itself. Hopefully. I do kind of like have a good plan about what to do going forward. But like on the outside, I give like zero fucks about this whole situation. Like I literally don't care. But like on the inside, the people pleaser in me like is crushed and I feel like total shit. So what I'm asking is how should I move forward to like do better? Like I'm trying to take this as a sign to like grow the fuck up and do something more. Like I'm not in college, so I'm not worrying about school at the moment, just work. So like how can I take this step back to pull myself forward? Like I'm thinking about fully getting invested in my hobby of writing. I wrote a few things, but nothing that can, be seen as professional. I think I can try to like focus more on that and not feel scared about having it be seen as good and worth something. Yeah. Anyway, this felt like more of like me talking myself through it because nothing like this has ever happened before. But yeah, like I would still like very much appreciate your advice. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. And I think I have some time. So I'm an Aquarius sun, Sagittarius moon, and Leo rising. Anyway, thanks again. Bye.
It's not a setback, it's a setup for the future.
Also the name of Matz's favorite fucking movie. Set it up.
The setup. So I want to know what you did place to get
I
fired.
loved the giggle. The giggle implied that I was like, yeah, I need to know the meaning behind that.
Because if you did a lot of little things, what were they? What were they? And I think, since you're trying to look at this as like, what's the next thing, why I made these mistakes, and what can I do to be better? What were the things? Were they things that you could improved on? Were there things where, like, if you had taken responsibility or apologized for them happening, would the outcome have been different? And take that with you into whatever your next job is. And don't think of your next job, because you said it's just a part-time job that I can get another one pretty easy. Don't just think of it as just a part-time job that can come or go. Think of it as something serious. Like, maybe try to find something that's within, if you want to write, like if that's your passion. I don't know like what genre that you want to write in, but maybe getting a job at a bookstore or something where like you can constantly be around the type of thing that you want to do. So then you have more motivation to do better, or even working at the library or anything like that. And then as far as the bank thing, you can't control that. Banks mess up all the time. I know there was a glitch that happened this past week that with Zelle and Chase accounts, like if you made any type of payment with it, it took double the amount out of your bank account. And so like some people were like, I know in LA we're writing like checks for rent that were like $4,000 and taking $8,000 out their account. And so like a lot of it just had a chain effect of then a lot of things in their account bouncing, and Chase is going to give the money back for the Zelle thing, but they're not like really compensating people for the other things that were bouncing in their account. And like, you can't control that. So, but when things happen to you that you can't control, just like, just know that like, this is something that's out of my hands. I'm not going to stress about things that I can't control, and know that like, it's okay for me to be upset about this. It's okay for me to be mad, but I didn't do anything for this to happen.
Yeah. So I think there's two different kinds of people, where some people, when they talk about something or they vent about something, it gets them like riled up and they're more upset. And then there are other people, I'm a verbal processor. The second I talk about it, then it's fucking gone out of my brain. I'm like not stressed about it. I'm not even thinking about it. Like, it's like
I'm the first person
relief. Yeah. No. And I have a lot of friends who are like that. And then I also have to be clear with who I'm talking to, that I'm not, when I'm using this, I'm like, okay, now I'm over it. And they're like, well, now I'm riled up. And I'm like, oh no, I'm like wrong person for me to do this with. So I would look at yourself and like which one you're like with that. So it's either you got to get it out. Like you can even just like fucking go on your phone or your computer and like record yourself, or you like writing, like write everything down, just like bitch about it, complain, like get it out of your system. Even if it's like, it's not your fault, like you didn't do anything for it, but like you have every right to complain. This is fucking annoying. Like, God, this fucking sucks. And then be done with it. Or if you find yourself that you tend to stew once you start and you have a hard time stopping with that, then I say like distractions. And then it just like, it is what it is, and pretend it's even farther in the past than it already is. Like pretend that it happened a year ago and it didn't just happen right now. Like when there's nothing that you can do and you're waiting for like, the bank to reinstate all of that stuff, like it's done. Like it's just as good as having happened a year ago, because again, there's nothing that you can do at this point. And for the work thing, if I'm not mistaken, you said that you were like you were gonna leave this job and like find another job in in a bit, but it was after your mom got a car. And so I'm wondering if you, and I'm very guilty of this, of checking out and not realizing knowing that I've checked out, but like thinking that like nobody else has noticed, and kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, well, like I didn't, or if like a friendship, like, well, I don't want to be friends with you, but this person beat me to the punch and saying like, you want to stop being friends. And so like, it's removing your agency from the situation. So like you felt like, well, now I look like the dumpy, like the person who's like caught, and like, I didn't even want this. And so it can feel doesn't feel like great in that sense. But yeah, I think like learning, like looking at this as like a lesson of, oh, damn, even when I knew that I was checked out, like I need to not, if I start noticing that I'm checked out, I need to realize that other people are noticing it too. And this isn't something that's just in my head. And like, if I check out early from things that I still need to be like an active participant in for X amount of time longer, then I need to create a different timeline in my head where it's like, oh no, I'm going to say that like, I'm going to quit this job in 3 months, not a month. So then by the time that like, I'm actually going to quit in a month, but I'm not going to be checked out from that point on. But like sometimes like shit just fucking happens and it's annoying and it sucks and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. Like I think like tedious things that require paperwork, like, you know, there are obviously horrible things that can happen in life and there are so many things that you have to work on and do all of that for. But there are like mundane annoyances and grievances, like having to go to the bank, having to get a new license issued and all of that stuff. I think that is also valid for that to be frustrating and annoying. But the only thing that I do to look at it as like a chance of like, I have a conversation with myself all the fucking time. Like, you need to fucking grow up and be a goddamn adult. Like, I have that. I don't know anybody who has ADHD who doesn't have those conversations with themselves all the time. So for me, it's just, okay, so what can I do to avoid the things that are avoidable? Like what are, even if I'm like grasping for fucking straws for like a lesson learned or something, I will just try to do that. Like if it's something as, oh, I miss paying a parking ticket, then I'm going to, the next time I get a parking ticket, I'm going to take a picture of the parking ticket and I'm going to put that in a note app. Like I'm going to do things that like, it might not totally change the course of my behavior, but I'm implementing new things that will hopefully change things for the better. But I think just sitting in it with feeling like there's absolutely nothing you can do, I think that's kind of a hard position to kind of be in. So like Melissa said, like finding something in there. And I agree with the job. If you can have something that is related to like writing and that kind of environment, or also, as you were saying, like a library or something, like another kind of job that's like a receptionist or someone who's at like a front of house thing where you're not having to do something that there's a little bit more downtime on there. So even if it's not related to writing, like you can bring a book, you can read a book, you can write, like do things there where if you're not on your feet all the time or running back and forth between all of those different things, like some jobs have a little bit more of that. And like, you know, even in the interim, like house sitting for people, like doing those things where like you're able to be making money, but then also have some downtime to use it as an opportunity to pursue some hobbies and seeing like, oh, where could this go from here? But yeah, I would like to know what you did.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Did you have a good time?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I did have a good time. Did you?
I did.
I hope my nasally voice was enticing to you and not nauseating. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Give us a call for an upcoming ones if you called us and we played your call on this episode or a previous one and you'd like to give us an update. We would love to receive that update. So you can shoot us an email. You can write. We're very lax about how we do updates now because we used to record on weekends. So we would like, you know, schedule it so you could come on.
And it was the pandemic too.
Yeah.
That's why we started during the pandemic.
Oh, that's true. We're very chill with it. So like you don't have to come on, like we can hop on a Zoom if you want. We like love doing that. You could send us another call. You could send us the video. We won't play the video like footage for other people. We'll just see it. Or you can send us a written update. Like we're cool with any of it.
Please don't ask for advice in DMs. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So you know our email, meganpodcast@gmail.com. And stay tuned for the rest of our slate of content coming up this week. We're doing a special edition of
And
But Am I Wrong?
Cheetah-licious edition.
We're doing But Am I Watching? Girl Power, Cheetah Power. Cheetah Girls edition.
Cheetah Girl,
Cheetah Sisters. And I have so much to say on it. So
do I.
That's Thursday. And yeah, leave us a review in the podcast app. You can also leave a specific review for this episode on Spotify. We love it. Follow us on socials everywhere. Follow us our personal things. Send us money if you would like.
That's it.
That's it. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melissa D. Montz, plus Diamond Imprint Productions.
Post-production sound and editing by Coco Lorenz.
Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson.
And music by Giacomo Picasso and Ryan Hunter. Hey, are you ready for some real talk and some fantastic laughs? Join me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melissa D. Wants, for Don't Blame Me, But Am I Wrong?
We're serving up 4 hilarious shows every week designed to entertain and engage and, possibly enrage you.
In Don't Blame Me, we dive deep into listeners' questions, offering advice that's funny, relatable, and real.
Whether you're dealing with relationship drama or you just need a friend's perspective, we've got you.
Then switch gears with But Am I Wrong, which is for listeners who didn't take our advice and want to know if they are the villains in the situation.
Plus, we share our hot takes on current events and present situations that we might even be wrong in our lives. Spoiler alert, we are actually quite literally never wrong.
But wait, there's more. Check out See You Next Tuesday, where we reveal the juicy results from our listener polls from But Am I Wrong?
And don't miss Fisting Friday, where we catch up, chat about pop culture, TV, and movies. It's the perfect way to kick off your weekend.
So if you're looking for a podcast that feels like a chat with your besties, listen to Don't Blame Me, But Am I Wrong on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.